In a courtroom filled with murmurs and marble echoes, a woman stood trembling, not from fear, but from something deeper. The sting on her face was fresh, her dignity bleeding through the silence. For a moment, time fractured. The room froze. Clerks halted mid-step, pens hung mid-air, and eyes darted between disbelief and fear. Aisha Malik had grown used to being invisible. At 29, she was a junior legal assistant in one of the busiest district courts of the city, where justice was measured in stacks of files and patience, and respect was reserved for titles, not effort. Each morning, she slipped into the courthouse with her worn leather bag and faded black heels, always arriving 10 minutes early, always leaving after the lights dimmed. She filed papers no one read, stood beside lawyers who barely acknowledged her, and learned quickly that silence was safer than correction. Still, she endured. Because somewhere in the back of her mind, she believed endurance was its own rebellion. It began subtly, the snide comments, the careless jokes, the way officers called her sweetheart when she asked for case files. It wasn't new, but it was constant, a quiet erosion. And yet, she smiled through it, the way women like her had learned to do. Then came the day that changed everything. The courtroom was full, a hearing involving a police misconduct case, the kind everyone whispered about but never truly addressed. The accused officer sat smugly in the front row, his uniform pressed, his smirk unbroken. Aisha was only there to deliver documents to the judge, but as fate would have it, her path crossed his. When she dropped a folder by mistake, it scattered across the marble floor. The papers fluttered like wounded birds. As she knelt to gather them, the officer laughed, softly at first, then louder. "Careful there," he said. "Wouldn't want you making a mess in front of the big people." The courtroom chuckled, the kind of laughter that later, when she approached the bench to place the files, he said something under his breath, something she'd heard too many times on too many streets. A word that didn't just insult, but reduced. She froze. The judge looked up, impatient. "Miss Malik, proceed," she did, until his hand brushed her arm, too casually, too deliberately. The next moment unfolded like thunder. She turned sharply and words collided in the air. Then, without warning, his hand struck her face. The sound, for days the incident became rumor. Some said she provoked him. Others said it was a misunderstanding. She filed a report. It was buried. She requested an internal review. Months turned into a year. The slap became a headline, then faded. But Aisha didn't fade. She took the bar exam, passed, and joined a reform-focused firm. She fought cases others avoided: domestic abuse, racial bias, workplace discrimination. Each victory was small, but each one felt like a stone placed firmly in the foundation of something new. Then, years later, the same courtroom that once witnessed her humiliation now prepared for her inauguration. The marble floors were polished again, but this time the reflection that stared back carried a calm power. The press called it progress. She called it survival. As she entered that courtroom, dressed in the robe she'd earned through sleepless nights, the same officer was there, sitting among attendees, summoned as a witness in an unrelated hearing. For a second, their eyes met. No words, no vengeance, just a quiet truth between them. He looked down first. Aisha took her seat at the bench. The gavel rested beside her hand, the same hand that once trembled. Now it was steady, still, certain. She looked around. She left the gavel behind that day, not as a symbol of authority, but as a reminder. Because true justice didn't need a sound to announce itself. It needed silence, the kind earned by endurance. In the weeks that followed, her story rippled beyond the courthouse. The officer was dismissed after a review. Headlines praised the system. Months passed. She didn't seek fame. She still rode the same bus, drank from the same chipped mug, lived in the same apartment above the laundromat. The world around her might have changed, but she remained rooted.